Oh my god, I'm so scuffed. If you're anything like me, you have found yourself on Book Talk, the corner of TikTok where you get book recommendations from other readers that, for at least me, feel like carefully targeted personal attacks. Since I'm finished with grad school, still woefully unemployed, and alone most of the time due to the everything. I decided to take Book Talk up on a couple of recommendations and was subsequently bullied into purchasing A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Widely known as ACOTAR online, this book, Court of Thorns and Roses, follows 19-year-old Feyre Archeron, totally inconspicuous name, as she navigates fantasy British Isles. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, let me show you the map. Like, tell me, like, this is not, like, fantasy British, like, Great Isle of Great Britain. You have, like, fantasy Scotland, England, and Wales, which I think Wales is over here. I was only good at geography when I was in the fourth grade. And over here, we even have fantasy Northern Ireland, and the rest of it has just disappeared because it's not part of fantasy the British Isles. But it's am I wrong here? Like it like that's Great Britain. Like am I right? But Feyre is your typical 19-year-old heroine of a fantasy series, so she has to like hunt in the woods for her destitute family. But this world has fairies who exist in their own world beyond the wall, which is not made of ice. It's just like a magical force field that just happens to be near Feyre's village. One day, Feyre plays chicken with a Fey wolf over a deer carcass. I wish I was kidding. Wins because she has like an ash arrow, and that's like the one thing that Fey are susceptible to. They are susceptible to ash. And then is whisked away into the magical side of fantasy Britain called Prythian. Prythian? I don't know. I always called it Pyrinthian, and that's not even how it's spelled. But she's kidnapped by this high fae named Tamlin. Tamlin. Feyre describes him thusly. This beast was not a man, not a lesser fairy. He was one of the high fae, one of their ruling nobility, beautiful, lethal, and merciless. He was young, or at least what I could see of his face seemed young. His nose, cheeks, and brows were covered by an exquisite golden mask embedded with emeralds shaped like whorls of leaves. Some absurd high fae fashion, no doubt. It only left his eyes, looking the same as they had in his beast form, strong jaw and mouth for me to see, the latter tightened into a thin line because he's like bullying her into eating dinner or something. He's a little bit broody, blonde, can turn into some sort of like fey beast. I'm still not 100% on like what kind of beast that is, and is the ruler of a kingdom existing in eternal spring. Sayer of mildly cute things, but I'm not going to get too deep into Tamlin because I want you to read the book and suffer with me. So this book is apparently a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, or was like heavily inspired by it, which I honestly must have just been like drinking stupid juice because I did not see that until someone pointed it out on TikTok. But it is fitting. Tamlin's court, the Spring Court, is under a curse from an evil sorceress that makes everyone in like the whole kingdom have to wear masks. Tamlin can turn into a beast at will, and Feyre ends up in her predicament because she like trades her own life for the safety and welfare of her family. Don't know how I missed those comparisons, but I did. Without spoiling the plot, one of the main draws of ACOTAR and the series as a whole is that it's apparently spicy, with reviews on the back using adjectives like seductive, sexy, daring, and passionate. There is what I would consider some tasteful adult content, but nowhere near as spicy as Book Talk marketed to me. If you've ever read fan fiction online, this book is going to be mild to you at best. I'm not going to read an excerpt of the spicy content because I'm trying to keep this channel like PG to PG-13, but not as much as you would expect for a book that was marketed as being spicy. So did I like the book? Yes. I read it in 6 hours and then ran back to Barnes & Noble to pick up the next book the very next day. I was initially turned off by the first person perspective that the book is written in, But I quickly got over myself because that felt like a personal problem and not a book problem. And I finished the book in one night, like I said, 6 hours. And this book's like 400 some pages, like just tipping into 400 pages. Yeah, just barely into the 400s. And I read this in 6 hours. After having only read academic readings for the last 3.5 years, ACOTAR was the perfect launching point for me to get back into reading for pleasure. I feel like it knows what it is. It's pretty well written for the genres that it occupies, which are mainly romance and fantasy, and I could not put it down. Like, I needed to sleep and I stayed up half the night reading this book. Like, I started it at like 6 p.m. It was up until like after midnight. It sets up a potential love triangle between Tamlin, Feyre, and this dark, broody character named Rhysand of the Night Kingdom. Rhysand. But it's not in like a weird, cringy way, like not like your Twilight or your Hunger Games or anything like that. The focus is definitely on Feyre and Tamlin in this novel, and Rhysand just kind of helps stir up enough trouble and like adds kind of like a looming presence to keep things pretty interesting with his character. There were some genuine stakes in this novel, but the pacing felt really fast to me. Granted, I read it in 6 hours, so this might have just been the fact that I read it really fast. I just kind of read it like, I'm done. But I felt like Feyre was sort of being jostled along in the story rather than fully grasping her own agency. But I feel like this was intentional based on reading the sequel, which I'm 100% keeping out of my brain because you'll have to watch that video. So, was being bullied by BookTok worth it? Yes. Is this book 5 peppers spicy like was marketed to me? Absolutely not. Do I think it's worth the read? Sure, if this is what you're into. I enjoyed it. I'm enjoying the series so far. I'm on book 3 right now. I had fun reading it, which is the only thing I can really ask of a book that's trying to like help me get back into reading again. And I'm still having fun on book 3, like over like 1,500 pages later. Have a book you think I should read? Let me know in the comments. I'd much rather get bullied by you, my viewers, than bullied by the algorithm on TikTok any day of the week. I tried to keep this review of A Court of Thorns and Roses as spoiler-free as I could, but I plan to do a more in-depth look on this is a potential idea that I have, which I can go more into it later if you're interested, but starting a Twitch book club where we meet like once every other week or once a month and talk about a book. I don't have friends where I'm living right now, so I'd love to have you guys as my friends. You can find me on Instagram at AnxietyLasagna and on the weekly podcast Without Context, which link is in the description box below. I do that with some of my friends. We talk about things like gaming, D&D, anime. All of October we're doing spooky topics, so tune in if you want to see me cry. Thanks for watching. See you next time, and until then, happy reading. Bye. That makes